Recently, I was invited to participate by video in a research project organized by Dr. Desiree Saponsky from University of Georgia. Dr. Saponsky has kindly agreed for me to share it with you here. I'm being interviewed by Charity Somo, a PhD graduate assistant within the Department of Human Development and Family Sciences.
I am a student at the University of Georgia in marriage and family therapy, and we are housed within Human Development and Family Science Department. And so I work with Dr. Desiree Saponsky, and she does a lot of work in Cambodia. And we have been interested in this topic of how other marriage and family therapists work in their own country and what's happening in relation to the field for several months now. And so, the conference that she's going to be a keynote speaker at gave us a great opportunity to sort of talk to marriage and family therapists in other countries to see, what they're doing, what the developments are in marriage and family therapy in their respective country. So thank you so much for being with me and talking about your experiences as a family and marriage therapist in Turkey.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's very valuable to be able to communicate what's happening, and hopefully we will have the results, her synthesis about what she's observed, she's collected as data.
Yeah, and this video won't be used for research purposes, but it will be used at a conference. But we can send you the conference video and the conference slides if you would be interested in those, just so you can also learn what marriage and family therapists in other countries are doing.
I would love to.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You could start by introducing yourself. What do you do as a marriage and family profession? Where do you practice? And things like that, so that we know you better as a person and as a marriage and family therapist.
Yeah, I'm working as a private practitioner for about 6 years. Mind you, I have been working in the private sector for many years, but I had a gap when I had a child, and for about 7 years. But I didn't really stop. I was just doing in a village school parenting courses. I couldn't stop completely. But before that, my husband and I used to teach family therapy in Turkey, in Istanbul, in a child guidance association. We used to supervise, teach, and privately practicing in 2000 to 2004 when we had a child. Then we moved to here. Then we had a gap, and then I started working. And mainly I'm working online because of the small. I used to live in a very tiny village then, but then my practice grew so much. People wanted to come to see me, even though it was a very remote village. So we decided to move to a bigger place. And now I have an office, home-based office. But I'm telling you so that you get to know how I work. Because I work from home, and this is a delicate line of work. I do some free interviews either on the phone or online before I invite people to come for safety purposes. So this is the way I've been working. I'm quite, they say I'm very committed to my clients. They feel that I'm a bit putting myself out too much, they said, but my clients don't complain.
Okay.
they keep coming, they keep sending more people. So I have a very busy practice at the moment.
Yeah. There are so many interesting things that you just said that I just wanted to follow up. And the first one is, where did you get your qualification as a marriage and family therapist? The second one is, can you tell us a little bit more about the online counseling, especially because you said you work in a remote village? Can you tell us what does that involve? And so is it like Skype interview? Would it be like this kind of an interview? Please tell us a little bit more about this, because I find that quite fascinating.
Hmm. Um, well, I studied in 1995 in London at the Institute of Psychiatry. Um, on King's College mostly then, and so that was my master's degree. I studied my psychology degree in Turkey, Bosphorus University. Um, Online therapy came about because we were living in a remote village, and the technology just then in 2009 was just about there for offering this service. There were like majority of the population had internet connection, and it was fast enough to have what we are doing now with anybody, anywhere in Turkey and in the world. And since then, I realized it was like a big niche. Like people really needed it. They were looking for online therapy. They were appreciating it as well. Mind you, there were like lots of therapy portals. You speak 5 minutes and they charge you. So this isn't how I work. Obviously, I have a very personalized service. And like in small villages, come to me from small villages of Turkey. Come find me, small cities, and also big cities. They don't want to travel between one place to another, and because I work late hours, after their children fall asleep, they have their cup of tea. I have mine.
Mm-hmm.
They are very comfortable in their homes, and we can talk. This is very, very powerful stuff, I find,
Wow.
because it is in their home and they are relaxed. Um, um, we laugh, we cry, very intimate. You can't say this is not face to face. It is for me. Obviously, there are certain things that you can't do. You need to be aware of. And some people really need to get out of their house and come somewhere in order to be healed. And you can't help everybody through one means, but this is one of the means that I find very, very useful. And the other group of people who benefit and come and find me is people who live abroad, Turkish people who live abroad. They find me because they want to talk in their own language by somebody who can understand our culture. Even if their language is perfect in the country they live in, and the services might be free, they still find me because they don't feel understood in the same way.
Wow, it really sounds you're doing great work. It sounds so fascinating. And it sounds like I love what you said about you personalize the therapy, and it's like meeting with people in the lounges, and they can be comfortable and have the tea, and you have your tea, that even though it's across screens, it's still personalized, because that's sitting comfortably in their home, and you're also sitting comfortably in your home, and you can connect with them in that way and use the therapeutic alliance to really do good work with the people. So I'm just fascinated to hear more about what you have to say to us. So, if you don't mind, we can start with the first question, which is, how do you see the need for marriage and family therapy in Turkey?
Well, in Turkey, there was an association quite long time ago, in late 1990s, And then we had in 2004 IFTA Congress. And this year coming in Izmir, there's another IFTA event. So Turkey has been on the map for a long time about marital and family therapy. More psychiatrists and psychologists were involved, I think, in the past, but nowadays more and more varied professionals are entering into the area, like nurses and social workers, counselors. So that's a very good movement, I think. But also, I think because we live just in an area where there's quite a lot of conflict between East and West. There's this religious aspect of the culture, and there's this valued Western civilized quote unquote ideas that independence movement has brought. It creates conflict at very different levels. So systems approach obviously is we need it everywhere, all on the planet, but Turkey also needs it in order to resolve its polarized conflicts at different levels, as I said, family level, couple, social, it just grows from that, political. But obviously we intervene from the family and do our best for the whole society.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you, to add to that, can you tell us a little bit more about what makes a family in Turkey? What is a family, is it the immediate family? Is it the immediate family and the extended family? What are the family dynamics, and how do people in Turkey typically define families?
In Turkey, families perceive themselves as 3 generations minimum, and they live in crowds often. You can see many families gathering on a very regular basis, if not daily, weekly. But major events also bring lots of them together, very like cousins and aunts, and very large gatherings can occur. Everything is a social event. A wedding can bring, like in a village like this, the whole village together. They're all invited and cooked in big pots, and but 3 generations is general rule, and grandmothers and fathers look after the young ones often, and parents go to work. They may be living in the same building. They call it family buildings. Sometimes the grandparents cook, and then the young couple don't cook at all. They just go to work, come home, eat. They have some time with the family, and the next day starts. So I find that having this kind of social organization lends itself very naturally to family systems approach. They come to sessions together anyway, and if you say you shouldn't come, they say why? And the other approaches like psychodynamic and cognitive, that deal with individuals, they are obviously they have a place, but Turkish people had time to adjust to those, let's say. The other approach is like in the old days they used to go to their elders or the religious guy to ask advice. Now they come to family therapy. In fact, they do go to both. Often I don't work with them, but I often allow them to consult with their religious leaders, because often some professionals are quite denigrative sometimes, if you believe these silly things, or like superstitions, what do you expect? But I don't think like that. I think everything is a resource. So I collaborate. I welcome their search. Everybody is a resource.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. That's, I think I just, the more you speak, the more and more I appreciate the work that you're doing with families in Turkey. Was there anything else that you was going to say about the need of marriage and family therapy in Turkey?
I think I said pretty much what I wanted to say. There's definitely a need. I find marital therapy, family therapy, more. I think of it as more systemic terms and approaching in a circular kind of way the problems that people face at all levels. When I think of systems perspective as an attitude, I feel like I feel like we need to introduce more and more. Obviously, people who are trained in other forms of therapy sometimes feel threatened, and they are not that open. But those who are committed to helping people find sooner or later come to systems approach, because it is the way forward. It is so inclusive. It is a way of understanding the larger picture and intervening from that picture. So I believe there is a need. And I remember in 2006, it was, I think, a state hospital, adult clinic for department for psychiatric hospital came and asked us to teach them family therapy, because the psychotic patients, they improved when they were inpatients. They went home and they came back with problems again. So they said we need to do something about families, and they wanted to learn. At the time we couldn't help them, but at least that was a very good indication that when people are committed and they are in good places to influence, then they improve the systems.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for that. If we can move to the second question, which is, where and how do you see the importance of marriage and family therapy in Turkey?
People from all walks of life are interested in marital family therapy, and independent of their religion, whether they are secular or not, I find that there's big openness for this and the need. So much so that recently, in 2012, a new law came, and they want to, the government wants to open family counseling centers, widespread, all over Turkey. And of course, there aren't enough professionals trained. So they, now, all over Turkey, there are little courses everywhere trying to bring up the number of professionals up, so that these centers that are going to be open are serviced by professionals who are trained. Obviously, these trainings aren't enough in themselves, but it's a start. It's a start. So I'm very pleased about it. The people, maybe we'll talk later, but even the sociology graduates are accepted in these courses. They need supervision, they need more input, but they are coming. As I said, the families are living in very close connection with each other and support each other. in illness, in old age. So this sense of community also allows for family interventions.
Yeah. Wow, it sounds fascinating what's happening in terms of, the government taking, responding to the needs of the community and on a systemic level like that, and trying to grant access to most families in Turkey by opening these community centers that are specifically family intervention based.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe I can add something else. Role of men and women are changing quite fast in Turkey, but the violence also is an issue at all levels of society, both traditional, like there had been some incidents of honor killings. And at political level, we know that politics can be quite um, while we have heard of, you must have heard in the press about events of Gezi Park. And at the relational level, between couples, we also need, obviously, in every society you have this sort of problem, so do we. Um, um, and also parents can be violent, and in the educational system we come across occasionally, but overall the system has got this hierarchical structure and always looking up to the leader, and in our culture, like, obedience is much more appreciated and nurtured than free thinking and innovation, independence. So there are all these levels that um, need to be addressed in a way. Rather than saying this is the right way, I feel that we need to follow the society in a way that makes it slightly uh, expand and becomes a little more flexible and increases people's choices about how they live their lives, without putting them in danger. So I help people to think for themselves, literally. Sometimes, in order to do that, I have to challenge family rules, values. But while doing that, if I'm able to talk to other family members, then I can hold them and help them through their evolution as well. Sometimes illness makes it an obligation for them to change. There's this anorexia, which I don't normally accept, but because I'm alone here, I don't usually accept these life-threatening illnesses. But because there wasn't anybody else, and the um, Institute of Psychiatry in London is the place where the major therapy methods are discovered and applied, and research is carried out. So I have asked my teachers to send me the protocol, and I created a team here, of dietitian, psychiatrist, and doctor, and we attempted to save her life, which we did, but there are levels of anorexia nervosa, and when it came to the adolescence stage, and there are other psychiatric conditions that come into play. I'm trying to refer her, for example, to a more equipped unit for adolescents. But we saved her life. She's functional. She's not underweight anymore, and it's going well. But the family needs to change. Yes, we brought it up to there, but still they are stuck. The girl says they are the same. They are the same. They need to change. They need to feel that it is the way they need to go, and it isn't easy. Change sometimes comes quicker, and sometimes it comes with more pain. So I follow my clients and I support them to do those transitions in their lives as and when they can do it. But we can't force people. So knowing our limits is very important, I think. Um, Another, you can hear me, can't you?
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm.
Good. Another thing that I find systems approach valuable and important, and I believe practitioners should address when working with families in Turkey, is the education. Education is so demanding on families. The value about with education is so high. Like, it's life saving. It's like, if you aren't educated well enough, your life is ended. You can't expect to have any future. There's this idealized um, focus on education. Obviously, education is important, but it's done in such a way that it takes over everything. There is homework all hours of the day, and the children can't go out, play, socialize, have any extracurricular activity. So we have to put in perspective. There's always an exam that they need to prepare. There's always extra weekend courses. We need to say stop and live, and it's gonna be all right. Somebody has to say it's gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when they just get carried away, relationships suffer, the child's development suffer, and as a result, the success, educational success, even that they strive for, suffer. So it's very important to, I think, underline.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that. I feel like what you've been talking about in the past few minutes is some of the issues that families in Turkey face. So do you want to skip question 3 and we can come back to it later and answer question 4 about, to what extent do families consult with you on systemic issues? And also maybe you can give us a little bit detail about what those systemic issues are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Of course, you might have understood from the way I speak. I don't believe any issue is not systemic. So they all bring systemic issues, of course. But um, um, as I said, some things require a bigger team, like eating disorders. Um, I find that couples, for example, dealing with the effects of an affair, it's quite a common problem that people come, or generally couples fighting. They can't have a fulfilling relationship. Um, Divorce is on the table. They can come. Um, childhood, childhood traumas affecting parental ability, and those creating difficulties with kids. They come with some problems with their kids. Of course, some more specific problems like panic attack, anxiety, phobias, social phobia is quite common in Turkey. These are issues that come through the door. Um, Behavioral problems at school. Um, so what can I say about these? Maybe I can say, when did they come? When do they come? When the people around them start complaining, sometimes inside themselves, the pain becomes unbearable. They fight so much they can't bear anymore, and they want help. They don't know how to deal with something. And there are some people who say, we shouldn't ask for help. But after a while, they get to a point where they can't cope, and it shows from outside. It influences the school and the teachers. But most people who come to me are self-referred. And there's the question of vaginismus. It's quite common in Turkey, which is probably more Eastern illness than Western illness. I think it's a very systemic problem as well.
I didn't hear that. What is the problem?
Vaginismus.
Okay, can you explain that?
This is when a woman cannot have intercourse because they have their muscles, vaginal muscles, contracts against their will, and they cannot allow the penis to penetrate, even to approach sometimes, because of extreme fears. I explain this. There are many levels of it, but because virginity is so important still in Turkey, and premarital sexual connections should be very limited, and intercourse shouldn't happen. Of course, it does happen, but these self-controlling attitudes, this in the mind, there is something that says I shouldn't do it, and there are lots of women who don't do it. They wait until they are married, but it isn't like a switch. You say it is not right, it is bad, you shouldn't do it for all those years, sometimes until they're in their 30s, sometimes later, and then when they are married and they are allowed to have intercourse, their body says they cannot make the shift in their minds. Even if they do in their minds, they can't do in their bodies. The body is closed. So this is a very common problem that a lot of couples, not just women, couples suffer. Sometimes it takes months, and if they don't come for help, it can continue for years, and they can be even pregnant without really having proper intercourse, not enjoying sex. So, and because they are so sexually inhibited, they may not ask for help. There's a lot of lacking information, I would say. That's why another aspect that we need to help society is to teach about sexuality, sexual awareness, how to talk to kids about it, things like that. So that's part of the work.
Yeah, I actually so appreciate, the contextual specificity of that issue and how our upbringing, our cultural values, our personal values can, influence not just our minds and our thinking, but also our bodies and how that could translate into relationships. So that's a very specific contextual couples issue that I think is really interesting. When when families come to you for assistance, do they specifically come for family counseling, or do they say, we have a problem person in our family, could you please deal with this person? Or are people aware that a lot of issues that they're facing are systemic?
Well, there are both, but I must say they have a lot of respect for us, for professionals, for education, educated people. If in my case, because I studied abroad, they have respect for me, and I find that when I offer an explanation, they accept. They tend to accept. I mean, obviously, there will always be people who are quibbling and wondering whether this is the right explanation or not. But I put them in a hypothetical way, or obviously there are things that I'm quite sure and very certain and very specific about. And when I say those things in those terms, they accept. And in fact, I must say they are relieved because they know that there is something they can do. And it opens a new channel for them. Before that, when the other person was the problem, the only problem, they just feel stuck. They don't know what to do other than going to a professional and get treatment. Um, so there are both, but often very open for systemic understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your input so far. Are you ready to talk about the recent developments? It's question 3 of marriage and family, and more specifically, developments in training of marriage and family therapists in Turkey, supervision of marriage and family therapists, and registration and regulation boards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, as I said, we had associations in the past, and nowadays it was more in private sector, and it's becoming more inclusive. New association was formed by working by people in the general public and in universities and state hospitals, and now family therapy is taught in universities. It's a very important development for us. Because when I first returned from London in 2000, there weren't any established university degrees in family therapy. There were some private courses taught by private people, by private professionals. We were trying to institutionalize. My husband and I served really an important function at that juncture. We exposed professionals into live supervision with video camera, and taught family therapy. The literature wasn't translated then. Now it's much more available. So, like hundreds of people have been through the system within the 3 years that we were teaching in Istanbul. But nowadays, as I said, some of our students took live supervision into universities. So that we are very happy about. That's something that we hoped for, but it did take quite a long time to happen. Supervision, as I said, this culture lends itself for looking for leaders, authority figures. So they would like to look up, whereas we wanted to give back the power. So we separated ourselves a little bit so that they took over. But then they brought other teachers from abroad to replace us. But it took over. Eventually, the power is spread. These things take time. Confidence grow in time. Different family therapy approaches were taught by their representatives here. People from abroad came and taught as well. Different courses. At the moment, as I said, there are these governments trying to increase the number of professionals quite dramatically, quickly, but there isn't enough supervision put in place for that. So there will be a need in the near future for such context where professionals can be supervised on a regular basis. Hopefully they will put it in place.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's fascinating. Are a lot of universities involved in publishing work on what's happening in marriage and family therapy in Turkey? Are there a lot of publications in native Turkey languages and also in English? What is the academic research publication field look like?
Academic research publication, of course, as the university are involved in teaching, more and more publications come out from Turkey. We have a Turkish Psychological Association with our own publication, literature publication. So there are some research coming and being published there. But some of us publish in international magazines directly.
Mm-hmm.
But research hasn't been our strong point, I'm afraid, so far.
Yeah. And I'm sure it
will. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will be as more and more people emerge, and because with what the government is doing, increasing the number of marriage and family therapists, more and more academics and people such as yourself will be interested in knowing what's happening, in the field, and therefore people will start engaging, on an academic level as the field grows in Turkey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, for somebody like me working in private practice, I attempted to do research with the assistants. They found me because they wanted to have experience. So I have, in fact, so I offer I had to offer. I have developed this system of offering placements for university students in family therapy because there aren't that many places they can in Turkish. So in one case, we did. She asked me questions about her difficulties, how to approach with families, what to do when working with families. So I answered them, and we created a little booklet for new therapists. And that is being produced in both in English and Turkish because it was in a foreign country, this course, but majority, there were lots of Turkish students there as well. So that was one thing we did, but when I was doing my parents training in the village school, I asked if they would collaborate for a research project, which they did. So we did give some questionnaires before the parents training to the kids, and after like 3 months of the training, and we wanted to compare the results. We have the data, but I haven't got enough manpower, student power to carry out the ending of the data is there, but it needs to be worked with. So it's an organizational issue. It will happen. I mean, I'm in private practice attempting to do it, but in universities they will do it much more easily, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, and all the best with that. I hope you can get the data published because it seems like such interesting and great work that you're doing with these families. And just to talk about the last question, what attributes do you think a marriage and family therapist needs in order to have a successful practice in Turkey?
Obviously, similar attributes to other countries family therapists, but maybe I can specify why some of them are more important here. A non-judgmental attitude, humility, if you like. Obviously, a thirst for learning's sake, rather than obtain certificates and qualifications. Here, sometimes certification becomes the purpose, and obviously, it's getting those papers don't mean anything. You need to get out there and do it and suffer a bit, and then you become a bit more experienced and confident. And the ability to separate your own ego from your practice and see things from a meta perspective. And of course, this last thing I'm going to say is maybe an eye-opener. In entrepreneurial age, no one teaches you how to grow your practice. Not in the state system or even in private sector, but when we are in school. But it's the same everywhere. You must learn your entrepreneurial skill everywhere, somewhere else. Because if you don't communicate who you are, what you do well, how will they know? How will they appreciate? How will they feel connected with you? Marketing is important in how you present yourself so that the person is prepared to be benefiting. We owe to our clients to create that image so that they benefit from us more easily. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Neutrality is important. Being apolitical, politics can be so divisive. If you identify yourself as somebody who's on this side, then all the people are the other side, quote unquote, will think, I don't want to go to that person. Yeah, it's not being systemic, it's not being impartial. So I believe if we can, to be efficient, to be really a proper family therapist, we need to be internalizing those systemic ideas and circularity and meta perspective, and not pretend to be impartial, but really be able to see extremes for what they are, and be able to communicate that with our people, with the people who come to us. So accepting people, we need a quality of being accepting, and I believe a little bit of firm and assertiveness. Family therapists generally need to be active and brave, courageous, because we need to challenge. But while doing that, also be compassionate and hold them at the same time. So, in terms of the diversity of culture for our country, I believe this non-knowing position is very important. I mean, some religious sects members came to me and they inquired, how will it be? You are not one of us. In fact, they chose me because I wasn't one of them. They didn't want somebody from their community. So I had to ask questions to understand their value system so that I could help them within that system. I need to respect their values and special ways of being and seeing. So there were lots of learning from them in the process. So being open is very important in that way. Being able to integrate what you know to their special case. It's true for everybody, of course. So this unassuming awareness is, I call this. It's very refreshing, and vital, I find, for a therapist to create a context for helpful conversations.
Wow, that's so.
Ah, I remembered one more, obviously confidentiality. It's very important. And still in Turkey, many people are worried about labeling in their communities. Often they prefer online sessions, I said it before, miles away from where they live in order to prevent such gossip. And of course, qualifications. Education is very important. Being taught by good teachers, by good universities, either here or abroad, has got a very high status, and people look for expert respectability. I
Wow.
hope that helps.
Yeah, everything that you said has been so wonderful to hear. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear about the people of Turkey, the families in Turkey, and especially to hear about how you've been working with them and the amazing work that you seem to be doing with them. So, thank you so much for taking your time to share your experiences. And I have grown just by listening to experiences, and I hope other people will grow and appreciate what is happening in Turkey in terms of what you are doing and what other professionals like yourself are doing, and also what the government is doing in trying to increase access to systemic help for families.
You and your loved ones are significant. To receive regular tips to help you achieve more autonomy, visit my page.